Hi, welcome to the Players Lounge, episode 3. In this conversation, Joel Lincoln and I are going to be discussing our thoughts on signature models, relicing and Relict signature models. As always, if you enjoy this conversation, please hit subscribe, and if you've got any thoughts or comments, please make sure you listen below. Enjoy.
So, where do we start? Relics, I suppose, and relicing.
Oh yeah, I've got a relic here. Yeah, in fact, I have actually got a. Yeah, I've got both. I've got a genuine relic and a relic, and a relic
Okay.
to hand.
A genuine relic, that's just old, isn't it, surely?
Yeah, one that's actually been played to death and done a ton of gigs. I've got one of them.
I've got a fake one. Look, there we go.
There you go. That's in case anybody doesn't know what we're talking about when they talk about relics. That's a perfect example
That's a heavy relic.
of a relic guitar.
It's actually slightly too relic now, because this obviously is supposed to be a copy of Andy Summers' guitar. But I've been playing it for the last 15 years, so it's a bit too relic now. It started off about his, but now I've utterly worn it out.
That's an example of a relic signature.
Yes. Yeah. But I wasn't prepared to play the 10 grand or whatever it is, the Fender one for one, so I made it myself.
Good place to start the chat, isn't it? The price of relic signatures.
Price of relics.
What is that all about? Well, I mean, should we start with relicing then?
Let's start with just relicing. That sounds like a good point.
Good idea. I'm going to get rid of this because
what's the general consensus? Is it kind of a positive thing or a negative thing? I don't know where you guys actually stand on it.
I've changed my views.
Right. I'll tell you what, I'll give you a summary of what I think about it. And part of the reason I've done this, and I relic most of the guitars I make for myself. Not sort of cosmetically, but from a point of view of there is a very, very different feel to really old, really dry nitro. It's not sticky. It just feels really nice under your hands. So any guitars I make myself, I attack them with a heat gun and freeze spray and make them check and really crystallize the lacquer. And I just like the feel of it. So from that point of view, that's relicing, I guess. But it does have a practical kind of upshot from the point of view. It just feels nice under your hands. So from that point of view, makes perfect sense to me. The kind of custom shop heavy relicing kind of stuff kind of grates at me a little bit, because if it's not sort of genuine wear, it feels a bit odd. And I know that's a total paradox, the fact that I made this thing and it's relics, but that was just kind of an exercise in duplicating things, really. As I've made a few of these kind of bits and bobs over the years. I've made a copy of the Red Special and things, and again tried to do all the wear and all that kind of thing, which is an interesting exercise. But despite the fact I've done quite a bit of it, I'm not really a massive fan of it. But
hey, there's a plug in here, James.
I do agree.
You could. There's a big plug here that you're really good at doing this, and if anybody wants you to make something, that you're the guy to do.
Yeah, I can do that kind of thing. Yes. I spent ages working out how to do stupid things.
I've been in a band with James for 3 years. He's relicked me.
It's about 3 years for me as well, and I definitely feel a lot older now.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, guys.
Oh look, we've all got Telecasters.
Hey!
Yay!
So
I should have a white one though. You've got a blue and a red one there.
I'm going to change guitars.
I've got my colour wrong.
I'm going to bring this puppy into the equation. So this is what I used to think about relics. I used to think relics was a really crazy, stupid idea and a waste of money. And I always thought a genuine guitar should be like this, which I got at the age of 18 and played it until I was well into my 40s. Then it was in a house fire. It's a proper relic. It's done hundreds of gigs. It had to be refretted because I literally wore the frets out. So it's got damage all over it, and it's a properly loved guitar. Well, everything's worn out. This is me trying to really take care of a guitar as well. But hundreds of gigs and all that sort of stuff. So that's what I always thought old guitars should get like that. And then I sort of was massively against the whole idea of it because I was a bit of a snob on that front. And then one day I thought, I need to get myself a decent Telecaster. And so I went off to a shop that had a lot of custom shop Fenders and stuff. I thought I better try one of those because they're supposed to be pretty good. And they were. And the one thing I decided I didn't want was a Relic'd guitar or a red guitar. And so that was the only thing that I was really stipulated. But ultimately, I was after a guitar that felt and sounded really good. And I came home with this, a Relict Red Telecaster.
Best laid plans and all that.
Yeah, I know. It's it wasn't a Fender custom shop. It's a Nash guitar, and all of the guitars that they make are Relics to one degree or another. So you're talking about, the kind of wear around the edges, dings that are just basically completely fictitious that didn't happen at a gig, and I still think that's kind of silly, really. But the two major benefits that made me think, do you know what? I think I was wrong all this time. Is one, I took it straight out on a gig. I mean, this wasn't a mega expensive guitar, to be fair, not like a custom shop. It was about probably less than half the price of a custom shop Fender. I took it out on a gig, and it's like, wow, it doesn't matter if I smash it or knock into a cymbal stand, or
you're not going to be pressed about it. It's already covered in marks. So what have you got to worry? Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was like quite a major benefit. If you think that you went out and bought a brand new, swanky, polished guitar that was absolutely immaculate on the wall, the first gig, the first gigs you do are always a bit nervous until you've had its first ding, and then now it's a used guitar.
You've clunked it against a ride cymbal or something, yeah.
But exactly. But if you buy it already semi knackered, then you absolutely got nothing to lose.
There's a service there you could do at Peach Guitars. When people buy a brand new shiny guitar,
just give it a kick
on the floor before you do it. And they haven't got to worry anymore.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean,
you could charge 50 quid for it, surely.
Well, this is
take away that.
For the record, this is a joke, but we normally leave that to the couriers. Disclaimer: this does not happen. They're always packaged incredibly well. But yeah, there's that. It's such a divisive thing from working in the industry on seeing what, like, on the media side of things and the social media stuff, and seeing what people think when you post a picture of a Relic guitar. Is you talk about like a Marmite thing, is that it really angers, and I reckon it's up there with Brexit. Like it's honestly the stuff that you see written by people about whether they love them or hate them. It's like there is no middle ground at all with them.
Oh, right.
And it's and I think the general rule I found was that it was a more of a generational thing, but it might not be. There was definitely a huge trend a few years ago for the really heavy Relic stuff. But I don't know whether it's me or not. But the older I get, the less I like the ultra heavy stuff. But you've basically stolen my point and my angle on it, Lincoln. Is that it's the roadworthy stuff that I really like. Like, I bought this. This is a custom shop. 62 Tele Custom, with it's got.
Oh, is that the one?
Yes, yeah.
Is that the one with the story behind it?
Yeah.
Right.
So this is a Brazilian rosewood board. This is one of only two in the country in this finish, and I know the guy who's got.
I didn't know that when I broke it.
No, I know. So I bought this from Peach 10 years ago this year, and I went in and I was looking for. I was looking for, not specifically, but an NOS. There was a new Fender thin line thing that was coming out, and they didn't have them in, and then it was like the release date kept getting put back or whatever. So I just popped in one time to buy some strings and to annoy John with loads of questions about stuff, and then this was in there, and it was used, but it was a used. I think it's probably like a closet classic, maybe. I think they call it journeyman now. I don't know if you can see much of the aging on there. There's quite a bit of like lacquer checking. You can see there's some little bits in there, and then on the back, obviously, that's me. All of that didn't have that on when I got it, but it's got that. The whole point to me was it feels brilliant, feels really nice. It was less because it was used and it was 10 years ago. It was less than the price of a standard American Stratocaster now. which is just for what it is, particularly with a Brazilian rosewood board, it was just an absolute killer deal. Hand wound pickups, Abigail Ibarra hand wound pickups as well, which are probably worth a lot of money on their own. But that was what got me, as it was the working guitar that if you ding it, I don't know which ones of these I've done and which ones I haven't, apart from the screws, James, along here. So when I got it, it just needed a tweak, and I can't remember whether it was the action or the intonation or something, but it just needed a tweak.
I think it was the intonation on the E&A.
Yeah. So I took it to James to have a look at, and he turned the thing, and then all of a sudden there was a snap and oh shit. And this was the day I just picked it up, and I was about to take it home to show my parents, and this it had two saddles and one hanging there. So
it perfectly shows up one of the disadvantages of relicking hardware.
This was
if you don't arrest the solution and they continue to rust, you end up with saddle screws that lock up.
Yeah, exactly.
Break when you take it to somebody.
So there's a real middle ground that just it happened. We laugh about it, and it was funny because but obviously it's all like imperial thread and everything, because it's date specific and everything, and historically correct. So to find the right screws for it at the time, when I didn't know like anywhere near what I know now, which still isn't much, I was like looking at radiator screws from the 70s on eBay and stuff like that, But the reason I like them so much is because but my dad and me, when it halves on a Martin when I was about 18 years old, and I took it to do a session for a band I was in, and as I was getting it out of the case dropped, and they're metal bound. This plastic, molded case has got this metal binding on, and it hit the lacquer on there, and it chipped it, and I was mortified, because it was a brand new guitar, and it was like when you open the Pulp Fiction suitcase and all the briefcase and all that. And I was mortified, and I thought, well, once I'd done that, it's knackered now. It's got a massive. It's got to wear through around there on the Martin now, and it's like it's part of it. But that first one, really hurt. Whereas with this, and I've got the Nocaster here. That's the same sort of light relicking. Is that it doesn't matter if you do ding it on the table, which I do, or whatever. And I think, going back to what I said earlier about whether it's me or whether it is a shift in trends, but the ultra relic stuff, I used to be obsessed with it, and I really wanted a battered old 60s Strat, like Stevie Ray, kind of Rory Gallagher looking thing. And just now it's not, I like a bit, but not too much. There's still something quite nice about
that kind of compromise where you get the advantages of it, looking like it lived in a little bit, but you still want it to kind of evolve with you, if you know what I mean. That's the thing, isn't it? So
I think
having hard lack and all that kind of stuff and a few marks, so you're not concerned about marking it, is about the right compromise, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think the thing that really did it for me was and you alluded to it earlier, James, was once I decided that I didn't have any choice, I had to have a Relic guitar, because all the custom shop Relics, all the custom shop tellies were Relics, and the Nash telly was a Relic. It came down to, okay, I'm just going to have to buy the guitar that feels the best and sounds the best, and it was the Nash.
Yeah.
And part of the relicking process, and I would say to anyone who looks at a Relic guitar, before you can even assess it, you have to play it, because one of the great things about that telly and the other two Nashes that I bought, incidentally, just off spec, that's how good it is, and they both turn out to be just as good, is the time that they spend on making it play really nicely and play like a really old guitar that's been played in, like all the fretwork on the edges is just absolutely spot on. They're perfectly set up. They just feel like they've been played for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it's got heavy relic, that's to me is what I didn't understand about relics before I actually had one. Is that the good companies and like the custom shop and the people that do this really, really well, actually you buy a guitar that is new, so it's totally reliable. It's a great workhorse, But it has that massive, that thing I don't like about brand new guitars, which is like you say, the sticky lacquer, the frets don't feel like there's, you're always sort of,
cut your hair when you go up the side of the neck.
yeah.
But it's the same as a pair of shoes, isn't it? You buy a nice pair of shoes, and it takes you months for them to actually feel comfortable. And I found that with the green one here, that when I spec'd that out, I went for the lightest relicing possible on it, just because I wanted some lacquer checking. But it came with a heavily lacquered neck that I actually couldn't play, so I had to take to it with some various solutions and Brillo pads and things like that, and now it feels like a nice guitar. It's a slightly satiny.
Did the same in my Korean Gretsch. Love everything about it.
The last thing you want is that
the lacquer.
Yeah, that's it.
Just
and
sand it off.
Yeah,
which is
this has got no lacquer on it at all on the neck. I've sprayed it, sanded it all off, and then when I polished the frets, when I did the fret job, I just turned it around and just on a dirty polishing mop, just rub loads of dirt into it and wax from the polishing mop. So it's perfect.
Yeah,
it's sealed, but it's just the back end of the polishing mop.
Yeah, sealed with your man juice.
It's a nice guitar.
So that brings us on to the I think I agree with you on this, Joel. The relicing that's based upon a certain artist's guitar, like the signature relics. So you're talking Rory Gallagher, Stevie Ray, that 335, the guy from what's his, Alvin Lee, is it?
They've just put out an Alvin Lee.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's basically a copy of a guitar that was a wreck.
Mm-hmm.
And he liked it, and great, and he made some great sounds with it. But to me, there's
I only found out the other day that Martin do a trigger, a copy of what's his name's Willie Nelson's guitar.
Do they?
Can you imagine? Just insane.
And then there's that Telecaster, the Jimmy Page Telecaster with the mirrors on it. What the hell's that? I mean, that's the sort of thing that he did. You might do to a guitar if you're absolutely off your face. Put some mirrors in really crap places. Yeah. It looks just terrible. And that's actually a signature model, Relict, to look like a specific guitar, which is to me
bit bizarre.
Bizarre.
I can see. I mean, obviously, with James is holding one now, so and I think. I mean, I'm assuming that was built around the time that you were doing the police.
Yeah, I made it for the first police tribute band I was in.
So I think there's a place for them.
Yeah, if you're in a tribute band,
within reason. Yeah, I think unless I think it's the ideal thing for the Gilmore and some of the other bits that I see come through the shop. There's a pair of Tony Iommi SGs, Gibson Custom SGs, a left-handed and a right-handed one that you had as a pair, and it's crazy money, but they sell because they're collector's pieces. And the same with the Jimmy Page stuff. That I think that was a pair, and we sold those. I can't remember what that a couple of years ago now must have been, and it's like it's unfathomable amounts of money for people like us, but there are people out there who want that and probably won't get played. I don't know, I might be speaking out of turn, but most of them, the collector's pieces won't get played.
With that kind of money, you're seriously into the vintage market. And you
massively,
can buy
like really decent 60s Strats, and
they really will go up about you.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a very similar example actually. When I was a kid, I wanted to make a copy of Andy Summers' Telecaster, a copy of Brian May's Red Special, and Edward Van Halen's 5150, and I made all three. This is the only one I've actually kept. The other two have gone, but I've had a couple of offers, people asking me to make more Red Specials, because to make them the same way Brian May did is a epic undertaking. Even his kind of high-end model that's supposed to be closer to the original isn't anything like the original guitar. And they're expensive to make. The one that I put together, I sold for nearly 3,000 quid because it's really difficult to make. but it sounded absolutely spot on, and it went to a guy in Sweden that plays in a Queen tribute band. So as you guys were saying, if you're into that thing and you want to absolutely replicate that sound, then you can understand it. But back to this thing, the reason I kept it is, and this kind of leans in nicely to how I kind of feel about the signature models, is if it's just a relicing kind of thing, I can't see the point. If it's a stock model that's just got all the wear in the right places, can't see any point at all. What's interesting about this one is you've got phasing the two different lots of booster and all the rest of it. So it's got some modifications to a standard guitar, which I find really useful. There's exactly the same thing.
Same thing.
Exactly the same idea. There's another one that I came across a little while ago. I came into the workshop for a setup. Richie Cotson Telecaster, his signature model. Bloody lovely. It's got a contour in the back and all the rest of it. It's basically a Telecaster, but it's got a cutaway. It's got splittable humbuckers, so you've got single coil options or humbuckers, and I think there might be a phase inverter and a few other things. It's got a radius heel as well, so it's a bit easier on the top end. So it's a Telecaster, but with some clever and useful modifications to it. So from that point of view, signature models, if they've actually got something interesting about them, again, sort of make perfect sense if it's what you need.
I think there's two types of signature model, basically. There's signature models that are essentially where a guitar manufacturer teams up with an artist for marketing purposes, and for that, nothing against the artists in those cases. I'm thinking of when we were working at Rossetti. I don't know, it might have been after your time, James, but working for Gibson in those days, the Sheryl Crow J30 acoustic guitar. It was exactly the same as the normal one. It just said Sheryl Crow. However, then there's loads of other examples of guitars where let's go to the famous signature guitar, the Les Paul, made by Gibson for an artist. It's a signature model. It's one of the most one of the most successful models ever. The signature part was so important that they even made the SGs. They even called them Les Pauls for a while. So
no, I don't like those. No, take it off.
But the point is that all through the guitar's history, there have been artists like really engaged, top, really good players that have actually come up with signature models that are a step forward in playing. Like the Ibanez Gem is Steve Vai. He designed most of that. That is basically most of his ideas. The Les Paul, like I said, a lot of the great Telecasters and stuff. The mods to all the Fenders that made that brand successful all came from players, because Leo Fender wasn't a guitarist, and he used to go out and give his models to players and say, "What do you think it needs?"
Well, it's like when you take when you look at the Clapton, which is like probably, say Les Paul aside, probably one of the most popular signature models ever. Pete Townsend plays one. As his main guitar, and loads of other guys. I think the Edge plays one, and loads of other players choose them as their guitar, because it's like, in a way, that the only thing that, not now, because the reason I bought that guitar at the age I was because it had Clapton's name on their headstock. But that's probably the one thing now that maybe lets it down, is that it's such an amazing guitar in its own right that it should just be a Fender stock model, lay sensors and a mid boost and everything. It's so usable.
It's that flexibility, isn't it?
And it's like the same, obviously with the Summers, you could mask that up as like a black telly or a non-Relic 3-tone burst telly, rosewood or maple neck, and that's a killer guitar in itself, regardless of the name.
If I ever get around to making myself another guitar in the future, another Telecaster, I'll base it on that, but I'll probably make a completely hollow chambered body, but without F holes, so it's got a bit of resonance like a thin line, but without the F hole in it, just because aesthetically I don't like it. But it will still have the preamp and the phasing version and everything, because it's just a really useful thing to have.
And you get used to it, playing those sorts of guitars for so long. When I went from the Clapton to anything else, I just found it sounded so weak, so weedy compared to, you know, and then you realise actually that's the problem. If there's a problem, the Clapton's the one, not all of the other 1,000 guitars. It's not their fault they haven't got a battery in them, kind of thing. But
I mean, that's the point, isn't it? When a guitar manufacturer goes to a really good player who's got ideas about how to improve designs of guitars for their playing, chances are the ideas they come up with are going to be really great for all other players as well.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a fan of that particular.
no.
I mean, like the Steve Lukather Music Man. It's a stunning guitar.
Amazing guitars.
I mean, he's a guy that absolutely knows what he wants and is engaged with instruments and experiments. Guys like that always come up with great signature models.
And all of I mean, obviously no secret in being on a massive Mark Knopfler trip at the moment, but the Sir do the Knopfler spec, but Pencer, who worked with Rudy Pencer and John Sir, who did the original one for him, all of the Pencer line is the MK and then a number or a letter. So it's all in this kind of super strat shape, but with various configurations. So they've almost based their entire run since 1987 or whatever on his signature model. But you don't look at one with a Bigsby and 2 Filtertrons on it and think, oh, that's a Mark Knopfler signature. It's, but it sort of...
the basic concept is where it's evolved.
But again, another one, active and, HSS and, active pickups and mid boost and all this kind of stuff. It's, really useful guitars for
Have you ever been bought off a guitar because it was a signature? Have you bought not bought a guitar because it was a signature model?
There was an amp. I could have been really tempted with the Edge 57 Deluxe, but I've never known him to play a deluxe, not a deluxe reverb, but a Tweed Deluxe. And then now there's this one that sat there. They don't come around very often, and it's got the Edge written on it. And I'm just,
I'm completely adverse to logos.
Yes.
So the same thing applies to guitars. Anything with somebody else's name on the headstock just feels slightly odd, really.
Remember those Everly Brothers acoustics?
Oh fuck yeah!
It's just the worst acoustic guitar ever made. And for some reason, I don't know. That's where signature models just leave me completely. Really.
I think most of the time I would steer away from a signature, but there are 10% of them that are just really good guitars in their own right.
Yeah, I've got a Peter. The only signature I've got is a Peter Stroud Duesenberg with a.
Yeah, but Peter Stroud's one of the coolest guitarists ever, so that's okay.
His name's not on it.
Well, there you go.
And that's cool.
Yeah, but then like my Nocaster.
Same with the Andy Summers. Yeah, it's just.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I put a humbucker in the neck of this, or James did, and now it's basically a Keith Richards. But it doesn't. It's like that's all it takes to turn a blonde guitar, a blonde telly into almost a signature guitar kind of thing.
Tell you what you need on that. You need a brown Bakelite pickguard. That'd look awesome on that guitar.
Yeah. And
a radiator valve.
Steampunk it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the way Bakelite goes as you start to wear through the top of it.
Yeah.
So the sheet goes on the top edge. That'll look great.
That will be Linux.
So Joel, in your experience, do you think there's been when have companies made really big mistakes with who they got to do I've got one in mind. Got to do a signature model. I mean, I'm guessing Fender and Gibson all were massively relieved that they didn't do a Gary Glitter signature model.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who have come out of appeared on a certain operation of the last few years that I'm glad they haven't worked with.
It turned out to be such a great investment.
Yeah, I can't think of any like they don't seem to do it as much anymore. Although they have this year at NAMM, there was quite a few signatures released.
Yeah.
But like there was I remember I've got this really rose tinted memory of the 2002-2003 Fender catalogue, and it had like the Buddy Guy Strat, the Clapton, the Jimmy
I was about to
Vaughan,
say,
the Merle Haggard with the
Oh, the leather on it. And
leather on it and everything, and the Dick Dale and all these ones, and the Sambora, and they were huge then, and the Jeff Beck as well. That's another great guitar in its own right, and
where's the great player?
all of those guitars were amazing, but just now they don't seem to do it, although they've just started throwing in a load of like new artists and Chrissy Hind.
Yes, what
but
was that?
yeah,
there's an interesting one. Did I tell you the story behind that? I can't remember what year it's supposed to be. 62, something.
two
Can't remember.
or three, something
Two or
like
three,
that.
something like that. Yeah. Anyway, one of my ex-students at the Gilbert School, her granddad used to play back in the 60s. Bought a Telecaster at a gig. I think Terry will correct me if I'm wrong. Broke the pick guard, and his dad made a stainless steel one for him. His some family relative was a session player and bought it off him, and he then subsequently sold it to Chrissy Hind. So there's a kind of Colchester connection to that guitar. Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah, Terry Crook was the original owner.
Excellent.
I mean, that's another example of a signature. I mean, bloody hell, what a phenomenal artist Chrissy Hind is, but no one would necessarily say she would be that engaged with guitar design to pester for a signature model, but I suspect it's the other way around.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, it's not quite a stock Telecaster, so again, it's interesting from that perspective. It's not just got the wear in the right place; it's the metal guard and all the rest of it makes it quite distinctive. So you can see why she did it. But she's such a high-profile artist, even though she's not known particularly as a guitar player. But it's I can see why they've done it.
Yeah, and then you go on to the.
I can see why they've done it. Yeah.
Then you've got things like the PRS Silver Sky, which is a video in itself, which is the John Mayer Strat signature.
Yeah.
That's
He already made it 20 years ago.
Exactly.
Covered that already, yeah.
Yeah. But that's that was another thing with him. That was he left Fender, and I don't know why he left Fender. I'm not that bothered about him to find out. He's a great player, but not worried about the ins and outs and stuff like that. But it makes you think, well, why did he? It's almost to Fender to go and do that, and I mean, but they're great guitars. But again, they're as much as Relics. They really split people down the middle with stuff, and it's a huge divider in the guitar community. Is that some people? But I think a lot of the trouble with this stuff is that you have to play the guitar on its merit, and it doesn't matter what it is or what it's trying to be. I could turn around and say, well, I don't want a Nash because it's not a Fender. But then it's like there's
That's
a damn good chance.
though.
Yeah, but then there's a damn good chance that Nash is better than my Fender. And then it's like, well, who's the idiot then? If I'm brand loyal, the reason I've got these guitars,
you've got to treat every guitar as you find it. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. And we have a load of T style and S style guitars come through the shop, and you pick them up, and if you're blindfolded, that's how you should shop for it. Because a lot of the stuff that you play, and then you think, well, this isn't a Fender, but it's an amazing guitar, like Sirs and Exotics and things like that. It's just amazing things. But there's to some people, and I suppose I'm slightly guilty of that, is that I still like the Fender thing, but I do need to play a Nash at some point though, because I'm intrigued by them.
Yeah. Well, the same visit that day, the guitar, the other guitar I tried just as a benchmark was a used Baja, just a 500 quid telly, and that was a perfectly good guitar too. I mean, the only reason that I didn't go for it was because it didn't sound quite as good. I mean, the Nash has got a lot of pickups in it, and the custom shops have got those lovely pickups in. Yeah. And this thing was, it wasn't quite up to spec, but it was perfectly good guitar.
And if a Relic's not what you're after, then you get some stunning NOS guitars that we see that come through, and there's definitely there's a huge place for those. There's still something about opening a case and seeing a pristine guitar in it, and then you go to the other end, builders like there's a couple of Fender guys or two or three that we deal with quite a lot. Dale Wilson being the main guy. And the artwork, the relicing is artwork on it. It's three-dimensional, and you can see that you could really run your hand across where the paint's off, and it's ridiculous. So like contoured and everything. And that in itself is like I say, it's a piece of art. But it's horses for courses. One man might look at that and think that's the most disgusting guitar I've ever seen.
Why have you ruined a perfectly good guitar?
Yeah, absolutely. And then and there's no right or wrong with it. That's the thing. It's totally subjective.
There is one guitar that I've seen that I've never played one, but I expect it's really, really good. Is the Music Man Valentine.
Not familiar with it.
Yeah, and well, I mean, I've been a big fan of Music Man guitars forever, and most of their line are signature guitars actually, but all by all signature guitars of very prominent players like Albert Lee and Steve Lukather and John Petrucci and people like that. Who else? I've got Steve Morse. Yeah,
Saint Vincent as well.
I seem to remember that's an abomination, though, isn't it? It's a horrible look.
Yeah, but anyway, he's a
not go there.
But the Valentine is a really nicely designed guitar by the looks of it. I could definitely get into, but it's named after the guitarist from Maroon 5, and I just don't have any. I've got nothing against that, but I have no allegiance to that, and I don't want to buy a guitar that not is just a signature of a model. The model name is the signature. Do you know what I mean?
But then when I first saw that guitar, I'd never seen one before, and obviously because it was when I first saw that guitar, but I didn't know who James Valentine was. I just saw that it was called the Music Man Valentine, and loved it. I think we had like a pine green one with gold hardware, and it was stunning. And it's got this kind of, I think it looks like two humbuckers, but the bridge one is like it's a single coil in there. The coil pieces are going not like a wide range, but it's like diagonally across it.
Basically, what I've done with this?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
it's the single there.
That's it, and it's just a really great guitar. And again, it's one of those that you could almost, because it hasn't got his name slathered all over it, you could almost think there's room.
I mean, it's probably a fault with me then, but I think that's going to put me off ever buying one.
I think it's because it's Maroon 5. That's what it is.
It's a great song. It's a good band. They do get nothing on it. But yeah, for me, the whole signature thing is down to signatures. I know that sounds daft, but if it's actually got somebody's signature in the headstock, that kind of annoys me. But if it's just a cool guitar, this has got Les Paul on the headstock, yeah. But again, it's that weird thing where you don't think, because it's such an established name, you don't think of it as being a signature model. And anyway, Les Paul didn't like these.
No, they weren't glary enough.
Those are the greatest Les Pauls ever made.
I think so. Yeah. Nothing to go wrong.
No, exactly.
Except for the intonation.
Telecaster.
Except the intonation, yeah. But this is you can get them now. I think it's Mojo Tone make them, where they're compensated for modern string sets.
Is that the lightning bar? Is that what they call it?
Yeah. Because they used to be two. Have the compensation on the B, then forward again on the G, but they now do it in two stripes, so they're compensated for modern string sets, which is great. If you've got a genuine old one, brilliant, because it sorts out a lot of those intonation issues that you get.
Happy days.
That's
a great guitar, that. Don't let Gibson see this, though.
It's got your name under there.
Has it?
Yeah.
Has it actually got it on there?
Yeah, I had to distinguish between the one I made for Gavin and the one I made for you. So I wrote Gav and Joel. So it's got Joel underneath the lacquer there.
So so that's just like, I am going to have to buy that at some point. That's my birthday soon. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it's getting properly relicked as well. It's got the checking and everything on it, but it's quite a few more dinks now. It's getting a bit more authentic because I've played it for a bit now.
Charge more for it then.
Oh yeah, that's discount as well now. It's used, so happy days. Well, there we go. I think
do we need some sort of a summary? So generally, I like old lacquer. Old lacquer's great. Replicating other people's wear is a bit weird, and I don't like signatures on headstocks.
On headstocks, yeah. I think signature guitars that are usable for more than the signature artist used them for are worthwhile. Relicing is good if you're a working musician, but ultra relic and heavy relic is too far as I'm concerned. There we go. That's pretty good. Lincoln?
Yeah. I don't like signatures on guitars, but I think some of the best guitars have started their life as signature guitars. If I do buy that Jack Cassidy bass, I'll probably sand his name off the headstock.
Yeah, I can understand that. Absolutely, yeah.
But I don't want to walk around with someone else's name on the guitar.
That's fair. I'll start calling you Jack.
Yeah, exactly.
Jolly good. Well, there we go. I think we've done everything we need to do there, haven't we? We've said all we need to say.
Sums it all up, doesn't it? Yeah.
Exactly.
Go. Bye, guys.
Right. See you later.
See you later.